Now, some people argue that the 73 campaign was the best season for the French Connection. I tend to disagree. It has to be the 74-75 campaign, as not only they won their division and were first in the Wales Conference, they also knocked off perennial Stanley Cup champion, the Montreal Canadiens, in the semifinals, only to lose a tough six-game series to the Philadelphia Flyers, despite being victorious in the Fog game, where nobody could see anything until Rennie Robert scored. Now, the 75 or 74-75 Sabres season was their fifth in the NHL. They went from expansion to the Stanley Cup Final in 5 years, just tremendous. They finished in a tie for the best record in the NHL in 75 after a disappointing 74 that saw the 1974 team fail to return to the NHL playoffs as they had the year before. And the year before that, they had a hard series with Montreal in the quarters, losing in six. Now, Buffalo advanced to the Cup Final for the first time in team history to play against the rough Philadelphia Flyers, who had recently been nicknamed the Broad Street Bullies, a series which included the legendary Fog game, but the Sabres lost in six, including 1-0 in Game 4. Now, the season marked the Sabres' second NFL playoffs appearance. The season was the first under the tenure of Floyd Smith, and the team's first in the newly created Adams division in the NHL Prince of Wales Conference. Now, Sabres players earned numerous accolades. Don Luce, always a pest, won the Bill Masters Memorial Trophy. Rick Martin, Rennie Robert, Jerry Korab, and Luce were all selected to the NHL All-Star Game. Martin was a first-team All-Star at left wing, while Robert was a second-team selection at right wing. Now, they played, of course, in the French Connection line. Martin, Robert, and Gilbert Perreault were all among the league leaders in scoring statistics. And this year, Martin led the team with 52 goals. Rennie Robert had 60 goals, 60 assists, with 40 goals, gave him 100 points. And of course, the tough back line of Jerry Korab and Jim Schoenfeld each had 184 minutes and penalties. Gary Bromley led the charge with 26 wins, while Roger Crozier, the veteran of 66, winning the Conn Smythe, went 2.62 average. Now, when goalie Dave Dryden was lost to the WHA following the 74 season, during the 25-round May 74 NHL Amateur Draft that was held for conference call, the team participated in the first 12 rounds of the draft in order to reload their squad. Although several of their selections eventually played in the NHL, the Sabres only drafted 3 players that played for the team that year. They acquired defenseman Lee Fogland, first round 11th overall, right winger Danny Gare, a sensation, second round 29 overall, Habs killer, and defenseman Paul McIntosh, fourth round 64, 5th overall in the 74 NHL Amateur Draft. They had acquired left winger Morris Titanic in the 73 NHL Amateur Draft, 12th overall. He was called up for the team's AHL minor league affiliate, the Hershey Bears, during the season. In addition, the Sabres drafted fictional Japanese forward Taro Tujimoto with the 183rd overall pick, presenting the protest selection as real until well into training camp that year. Now, other key players in the draft included Gary Levriviere, Rick Jozio, who had eventually tried to kill Mark Tardif later on, and Derek Smith, and Bobby Geoffrion as well. Now, prior to the season, the team had lost right winger Ron Busniak to the Red Wings in the June 10th interleague draft. Buffalo also lost left winger Steve Atkinson and center Randy Wazzerzub to the Capitals in the June 12th expansion draft. They also lost defenseman Paul Tabenchi to the Kansas City Scouts in the same draft. Now, October 1474, in a very, very key deal, they acquired 1974 All-Star defenseman Jocelyn Gavremont, an alumni of Team Canada 72, and forward Brian McShuffery from the Canucks in exchange for left winger Jerry Mean and defenseman Mike Robitaille. On January 27, 75, Buffalo acquired left winger Fred Stanfield, the former Bruin, for the North Stars for right winger Noam Grateau, and Buffalo's third round choice in 76. The veteran Stanfield had finished in the top 10 in the league 4 times in assists before being acquired by the Sabres, and he had a really good campaign. They also acquired the NHL rights to goalie Gerry Desjardins from the Islanders for defenseman Gary Lariviere on February 1975. Now, in May, after the season ended, left winger Rick Dudley, who later coached the Sabres for 3 seasons, jumped to the WHA. After 11 seasons in the NHL, 75 was the final one for right winger Larry Mickey before his retirement. Now, the Sabres returned after a season of injury and tragedy when their captain Tim Horton died in an auto accident. Now, the big thing in November, of course, was a key 902 streak that started November 17 against the Flames. In the third game of the streak, which was also against the Flames, they made a comeback from two separate 3-goal deficits to tie the contest. Now, in January, the team posted a season-high 6-game win streak between January 12th, 75 and January 25th. The streak culminated in a second win against the Habs on the road. After a February 1st loss to the Flyers, the Sabres went undefeated for the rest of the month. They had a season-high 12-game unbeaten streak between February 2nd, 75, and February 27th of the month. And ironically, ladies and gentlemen, overall record 49, 16, and 15. Now, coming into March and April, they had, led by Floyd Smith, Martin's injury against the Maple Leafs hurt their chances in the month. Now, at the beginning of the month, Desjardins had quit the Baltimore Blades of the OHA to finally join the Sabres. Desjardins was frustrated at not getting paid when attendance was sparse, and they were getting paid for money. Now, in the division, ladies and gentlemen, 49, 16 to 15, the Bruins were a big 19 points behind. The Maple Leafs made the playoffs with only 78 points. Now, Buffalo scored a lot that year. They were plus 114. Now, records against the opponents: 4-1 against Boston, 4-2 against California, 4-1 against Toronto, so 12-2-4 in their own division. 3-1 against Detroit, 1-3-1 against the LA Kings, undefeated against the Habs, 4-1, undefeated against Pittsburgh, 3-2, and undefeated against Washington at 5-0. Now against Atlanta, 1-2-1, undefeated against the Islanders, 2-2, against the Rangers, 4-1. But as a precursor of the playoffs, they were 0-3-1 against Philadelphia, the only team that campaign they had heavy trouble with. Now against Chicago, 3-1, Kansas City 4-0, Minnesota 3-1, St. Louis 2-2. Now the big streak again, ladies and gentlemen, they started 3-1 and were 12-3-2 in that big streak in November, and again another undefeated streak right after this. They would rarely lose more than 2 games in a row. And the second half of the season, what really hurt them, ladies and gentlemen, they had a late road trip. I think they were really tired. They played 3 games in 5 nights, and they lost all 3. But the back-to-back against the Bruins was key, and they almost won 50 games that season. Now, the French Connection led the Sabres in scoring by 1-2-3 in both goals and points, although none of them played as many as 75 of their squad's 80 contests. Perreault's 8-game winning goals was 5th highest in the NHL for the season, although he only played 68 contests. He finished 9th in the league in scoring with 96 points, including 39 counters. Martin also played 68 games but finished 3rd in goals and 10th in points with 95. His 21 power play goals were 2nd in the league. Robert was 7th in points. And, of course, Craig Ramsay on the big defense had 7 shorthanded goals. And, Don Luce had 8 shorthanded goals, and Craig Ramsay had 7. Luce had a 61 plus-minus, which ranked 4th, and Peter McNabb led the league in shooting percentage. Now, the key lineup, ladies and gentlemen, here, again, Reddy Robert, Perreault Barton, Luce, Dudley Lawrence, Craig Ramsay, Danny Gare, Jerry Conrad, Peter McNabb, Brian Spencer, all the way over from the Islanders in Toronto, Freddie Stanfield, who played half a season, Jocelyn Gavramel, Bill Hite, Jim Schoenfeld, Larry Carrier, no relation, Norm Gatto to Minnesota, Lee Fogel and Gary Bromley, Larry Mickey, who had 2 goals in 23 games, Roger Crozier played 23, Jerry Meelan, Mike Robitaille, Paul McIntosh, Michel Dizil, Brian McSherry, Rocky Farr, Gerry Desjardins, Maurice Titanic, who had 17 contests. And on the goalie side, there was 4 goalies that year: Roger Crozier, Gerry Desjardins, Gary Bromley, and Rocky Farr. And in the playoffs, again, Desjardins got most of the starts, but Crozier did play some key contests. Now in the quarterfinals, they had a bye in the first round, and then met the Chicago Blackhawks in the round of 8. In the first game of the series, Chicago took too many penalties and Buffalo won 4-1. Although the Blackhawks opened the scoring in Game 2, Dudley scored a pair of goals on a way to 3-1 victory. Now, Game 3 was sudden dead overtime victory for Chicago. Sabres came back in Game 4 to score 5 in the third period on the road to win 6-2. Then he won 4-1 at home. Robert fought twice and scored once. He got in the fisticuffs with Pet Martin and third man Phil Russell. Now, against the Sabres in Montreal, overtime has the key. Gerry had the overtime winner against Montreal Game 2 and a 4-2 victory in Game 1 and 4-2 victory in Game 2. Now, in the game, the 4-2 victory for Buffalo, Henri Richard surpassed his brother Richard with his 127th Stanley Cup playoff point. Following their strong 7-0 Game 3 performances, the Habs eventually won the Game 4 at home by the 8-2 margin. So going back to Buffalo, we figured, hey, Montreal got momentum. However, this bench-clearing brawl occurred with Riseborough and Gear squared off. Bill Height got ejected as third man in, and Larry Robinson, who took on Height, was also ejected. But the key point in Game 5, Montreal was up 3-1 early, but won in overtime in Game 5 on a Rennie Robert goal. Then the Sabres scored 3 goals in the first period in Game 6 to a series-clinching 4-3 victory. Some people say they were lucky to get past Montreal, but it was well-deserved. Now, against Philadelphia, the Flyers had a 43-3-1 record when Kate Smith sang at the Spectrum. And in that contest, they were hurt by penalty minutes, and the Flyers won 4-1 in Game 1. In Game 2, they were held to 19 shots on goal, and again lost 1-0. Now, due to the unusual heat in Buffalo in May 75, portions of Game 3, which is known as the fog game, were played again in heavy fog. The game was stopped 12 times due to conditions, and the skaters had to skate around the rink to lift the fog. Buffalo goalie Desjardins gave out 3 first-period goals, with Crozier starting the second period. After having surrendered goals in his first 2 shots faced in 3 of his first 6, Desjardins removed himself from the game. The Sabres recovered from a 3-goal deficit on 2 goals, 17 seconds apart by Gerry and Martin. After a goal by Luce netted the scorer, Reg Leach gave the Flyers the lead again. Then Bill Height scored his first career playoff goal to tie the contest. Eventually, Robert scored the game winner in overtime through the fog with a goal that Flyer goalie Bernie Perron did not see until it was too late. The game was the longest NHL overtime game in over 4 years. Players, officials, and the puck were invisible to many spectators. Due to a face-off and through the fog, Sabre center Jim Lorentz spotted the bat flying across the rink, raised his stick, and killed it. Many superstitious Buffalo fans considered this to be evil omen pertaining to the result of the series. It was the only time that any player killed an animal during an NHL game. This is one, again, of 3 playoff appearances for Crozier. Desjardins surrendered a goal in the third Flyer shot in Game 4, but he stayed in the contest for a 4-2 victory. In Game 4, the unreasonable temperature only caused the play to be stopped twice, with 8:08 and 4:44 remaining, as 5 pairs of arena employees skated around the ice with bed sheets to clear the haze. Now, by Game 5 of the series, Dave Schultz had claimed both a single-season and regular season penalty minute record and a postseason record. However, he contributed his first 2 goals in the playoffs in a 5-2 win to help the Flyers take a 3-2 lead in the series. It was Schultz's first 2-goal performance of the season and his first since March 9th. In the 6th game, Conn Smythe Trophy MVP Bernie Perron shut out the Sabres 2-0 to clinch the series 4 games to 2. Crozier held the Flyers scoreless for the first 2 periods of the final game. Now, awards and records: Prince of Wales Trophy, Bill Masterton Trophy, Don Luce, Rick Martin, NHL All-Star Team, left wing, first team, All-Star Game appearance, Rennie Robert, NHL All-Star Team, right wing, second team. Perreault didn't make the final cut. Don Luce and Jerry Korab made the All-Star contests. Peter McNabb won the NHL scoring percentage leader at 24.4, while the club record for most goals was set at 354. Now, some people basically say that this is a lost cup that the Sabres should have won. But, I mean, they were playing Chicago, Stanley Cup champion for many years, or some years before, Montreal Canes and the Flyers. Flyers had the easier path to the finals. But I think what really hurt the Sabres, again, is just inconsistent goaltending. I still believe Gerry Desjardins ruined it in the playoffs, and I told him to his face at a celebrity hockey event in Jackaloon, New Brunswick. I've despised Gerry Desjardins because he cost him the cup. He quit on his team in that key contest, and I had to bring an old man in. So again, 1975 Buffalo Sabres, what a squad, French Connection alone, and the good defense and the good, they were an offensive team and a defensive team at the same time. like with Dudley and Luce and Craig Ramsey, and the young defensemen and all that. With Schoenfeld and Korab and Danny Gear was a Montreal killer, so was Robert. So, ladies and gentlemen, if you like what we're doing here, we're a Vintage NHL podcast. Let us know in a like, comment, subscribe, or share.